Good morning, everybody. Welcome to CommOCEAN 2020. This is the 4th International Marine Science Communication Conference run by the European Marine Board Communication Panel. And this year, it is, of course, a little different to others. Over the summer, we took the conference online rather than to postpone it, and to keep the original format of 2 days of keynotes, presentations, and workshops. It's an ambitious programme, and I would like to thank our hosts, the Institute of Oceanology of the Polish Academy of Science, and the European Marine Board for their support. In holding the conference online, we've also made it free to attend for the first time. And on behalf of the organising panel, I would like to particularly welcome those who have not been able to attend a CommOCEAN conference before. And to those who have been before, we thank you for your continued support and hope that you will find familiarity in the programme. In a year like no other, the importance of communication in all its forms have been highlighted. And I'm sure we've all made a great many changes to the way we work, with some intended activities made impossible by the situation, and with others suddenly becoming more prominent. As communicators, though, we've always had to adapt really quickly to a changing world. And over the next 2 days, I'm looking forward to hearing about the new and inventive ways we found to keep marine science in hearts and minds. We have 3 speakers in this opening session, followed by a short introduction to the conference format from this point. Thank you again for your attendance. We hope that you enjoy the conference. And I'll now hand over to our first speaker, Professor Jan Marcin Węsławski, from our hosts, the Institute of Oceanology of Polish Academy of Science.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I'd like just to say some words at the beginning that we are very honored to be part of that initiative. And I'm a marine ecologist, and it's only recently that I realized how important is the proper science communication and knowledge, what we call now the ocean literacy. We were involved for the last few years with a citizen science approach, with a belief that the old mode of lecturing people is sort of outdated, and the modern approach is simply to get people involved in the direct observations. And we're quite successful, but it turned out to be surprisingly difficult, because what we observed in that period of growing populism, that there were groups, for example, of the professional fishermen in Poland, who said, okay, we are citizen scientists and we will do science on our own. So they started to buy equipment like CTD zones, ROVs, etc. And they claimed they are doing the independent and only true research in the sea to tell why the fish is absent or why the fish is present, etc. So it's sort of a caricature of the citizen science, and it shows how important it is to be in a close contact with the wide public, that we have to retain or remain some kind of understanding and respect for the professionals, involving wide public, of course, involving citizens, being as open, as informative as we can. But also we shall keep in mind that it can become it can go in surprisingly new ways. And that's one of the things we are really concerned now. Of course, probably you've seen it also in your countries, that there is a growing number of crazy stories about the sea and its environment. Like we got the messages that the phytoplankton died out, and that's why the fish disappears from the ocean, etc. And again, we have to prove that the Earth is not flat, so to say. So it's a huge work to do. I didn't realize that it's such a difficult problem nowadays, especially when the number of people representing the public, they know the words, they know some of the phenomena, and they are combining them on their own ways. So it is the science that needs to somehow sort out all those strange beliefs, fake news, and you name it. And it's not a trivial problem or a trivial challenge before us. So I'm with great interest. I'm awaiting your talks and your discussions, and we are very, very happy to be part of that initiative. So I wish all interesting meeting, and I do hope that we will remain in close contact. Have all the best for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcin. I think you will get lots of insights into things like citizen science and getting people involved rather than telling them about it, showing them about it. It looks like a really good program. Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Dr. Jill Liseroy, the chair of the European Marine Board and director of the European and International Affairs at IFREMER.
Sorry, I have to switch on my Mac. Sorry. Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be here today. And I would like to thank IOPAN, even if it's virtual, to host this meeting. I would have loved to be in Szczecin instead of being in my apartment in front of my computer. But this is life, and I'm very happy for that. So I'm going to try to share my screen. And well, it's not the, where is my, oh, I don't see it on the report. Let's see, where's my, where's my screen? Here it is, sorry. Sorry about that. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so as I said, and you introduced me, I am the chair of the European Marine Board. I was just elected in 2019, but I was very happy to be a vice chair when we have decided to bring with us the communication panel. And I see that CommOCEAN is working very well, and this is something very, very nice for the European Marine Board. And I'm going to try to explain you what we are doing and what is the objective of the European Marine Board. So we work on the marine science policy interface, and this is to provide advice on future research and policy needs related to marine issues. The European Marine Board is now an independent and self-sustaining body. We are covering a wide range of marine science topics, and we were established in 1995, and we became an independent legal entity in January 2017, so very recently. The aim of the European Marine Board is try to have a European focus, but with an international outlook and in keeping national connections, which is important. The European Marine Board is a unique think tank, and this is in marine science policy, which also something we will talk today in the communication ocean meeting. We are based on a partnership of major marine and oceanographic institute, research funding agencies, national network of universities. In 2020, we were 35 members, and we were covering 80 countries across Europe. We are representing over 10,000 researchers and technical staff. The board has recently decided to extend the European membership to a maximum of 4 members per country in lieu of 3 previously. And I recommend you to tell to your organization if they want to join, there is still some room to join the European Marine Board. The Secretariat is constituted of 5 colleagues based in Ostend. You have the picture on the slide. Very nice colleagues and very efficient Secretariat, I can tell, as in the European Marine Board chair. The mission statement of the European Marine Board is quite important. This European Marine Board provides a pan-European platform for its members' organization to develop common priorities and advance marine research and bridge the gap between science and policy in order to meet future marine science challenge and opportunities. After the onset of a group of marine science communication panel experts. They were engaged with the European Marine Board. The communication panel became a permanent panel of the European Marine Board in 2012, providing a pan-European platform for marine science communicators to promote marine board activity, to synergize outreach activity, and to advocate oceans literacy, and coming to having this nice CommOCEAN meeting. Of the Marine Board and with the European Marine Board Communication Panel, we provide our advice through events and publication. Here is a rapid overview of our activities. We have provided a 9 Eurasian conference, but we also provide European Marine Board forums where we bridge the gap between the science community and policymakers, and we try to act as a platform for discussion and share knowledge, and the role of the communication panel, as you can imagine, is very important in that case. Here is also an overview of our current activity, where we launched Brown Bag Lunch, which is about 1.5 hours, where we launch debates on very specific topics, and we try to have a good vision of that. But we have also science webinars, and due to the COVID, we have been quite active in having these science webinars, and they present the science that underpins position papers and the publications of the European Marine Board. And they take place once a month, and I recommend you to connect and follow this science seminar. They are carried out on the third Thursday of every month. And the UMB engaged in working group of experts, and this expert lead to important publications. We are bridging the gap also to the policymakers and to stakeholders, and try to bring some focus on specific topic area. Today we have 25 position papers, 6 future science brief, 8 possibility brief, and 2 science commentaries. And I recommend you to connect on the European Marine Board website and to try to download these very important, I believe, position papers. And to also focus on a new point we have launched is the Umb Ambassador Program. We have the involvement of young scientists for the UMB. These young ambassadors are coming from members organization, and they are for a 2 years period. And there is a new call today where we have a new young ambassador who will join us. And this new call to support UMB online dissemination, it will be launched in January. So for the young people who are connected, and if they want to join as a UMB ambassador, please follow the link which is on the slide there, and you can find it on the European Marine Board website in any case. So you can find more on our website, as I say. You can follow us on Twitter, and I'm very happy that to have this talk. Sorry for being long, but I wish you a very nice CommOCEAN meeting. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Gilles, for that good overview of the work of the European Marine Board. I hope that with this pre-conference, we're probably introducing it to some people who may not know about the work. So that's great. And thank you for your continued support for CommOCEAN as well. It's turned into one of the highlights of our calendar. So thank you very much for that. So our final speaker of this session is our keynote speaker, and it's Vinicius Lindoso from the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, who will talk about the upcoming decade of ocean science. And we're really very, very pleased to have him here.
Thank you so much. So let me just take control of the presentation. Thank you, Angel, for putting it out. Okay. So, hi everyone, my name is Vinicius Lindoso, as Lucy introduced me. I am the Communications Officer at UNESCO's Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission. And since December 2017, I have been equally involved through the IOC's coordinating role in preparing this ocean decade. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. Those who went to the last CommOCEAN in Southampton will have heard about the decade from me as well, but a lot has happened since then, and so it's a pleasure. And thank you to the organizers and to the European Marine Board as a whole for inviting me again to give you a sort of almost call to action and status update on the communications preparations for the ocean decade on the eve of going into the actual decade, which will start on the 1st of January. So just trying to, there we go. Okay. So essentially today I'm here to talk to you about change. Part of it is negative change, like what's happening to the climate, like what's happening to the ocean, what's been exacerbated by years and years of neglect on the part of a lot of stakeholders. But I'm also here to talk to you and mainly about positive change. And we have seen how across the world in the last couple of years, not just youth, but citizens in general have really risen up to take ownership of the planet, take ownership of what exactly, sorry, up. I have just done something wrong to the presentation. And who can I give up remote control? And
yeah, sorry, you were also moving my mouse. So I was trying to solve it. No problem.
It's the
here we are
okay,
again.
Cool. Thank you. Great. So I was talking about citizen action, and I'd like to introduce to you what the UN hopes to do about it in the next decade to come. So I'll just invite you to get to know a very short movie that we've prepared to introduce the ocean decade, and then we'll take it from there.
The next 10 years will be crucial for life on the planet as we know it. Climate change, food shortages, epidemics and disasters, economic crises and unemployment. The good news? We can rely on a powerful source of common solutions to overcome these challenges. Our one shared ocean. Set to become the world's 7th largest economy by 2030, our ocean regulates climate and provides food and livelihoods for over 3 billion people. But do we know all our ocean has to offer? Can we harness ocean solutions to achieve our global goals by 2030? The United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development brings together scientists, governments, business, philanthropists and NGOs to unlock the science we need for the future we want. Are you ready to join the movement? Find out more www.oceandecade.org.
So just very briefly, that's sort of the elevator pitch of the decade. And it's really about bringing all the actors together. But first and foremost, it's about giving individuals the understanding of the ocean that they need to act. Also, to change the narratives and to change humanity's relationship with the ocean so that, by 2030, we can essentially have a citizen-driven change toward the ocean that we want to have. Angel, would you mind going into the next slide? So what is it that the ocean we want? The implementation plan of the Ocean Decade defines that very precisely. And as a result, essentially, of a global consultation that included 12 regional consultations across every single ocean basin, including the polar regions, since the beginning of 2018. A lot of different people, thousands of experts, have been really hard at work to define what is it that we want to accomplish by 2030 and what is it that we need to do. So the ocean we want is essentially an ocean that is accessible, that is clean, and where sources of pollution are identified and addressed, that is healthy and resilient, that can withstand the changes that are irrevocably going to happen as a result of sustained climate and planetary change. It's an ocean that is predicted, where we have the systems in place, the ocean observing systems. It's an ocean that's safe, where we have the early warning systems, where we have communities that know what to do in case of ocean hazards, such as tsunamis. It's an ocean that is productive, but also sustainable. Ultimately, it's an ocean that can continue to inspire us. After all, what would be our culture, our many chunks of our literature, poetry, if the ocean were not there at the basis of it all? If we can move to the next slide. And speaking about literature, I just wanted to bring a quote that I particularly like from one of my favorite authors, Haruki Murakami, Japanese born, but who also wrote in English quite a bit, and is gifted in many ways. And a lot of his books talk about the passage of time and the agony that can be. And I think that today, as we look upon what's happening to the world, but also when we look at the kinds of opportunities that have emerged with the advancement of scientific, but also traditional knowledge, it really, really popped to my mind at diverse occasions. The clock is ticking, and we can't wait, because between now and 2030, it is going to be a crucial moment, and it's really the make it or break it moment for not just the ocean, but the planet itself. Moving along to just how exactly is it that we can get that ocean we want by 2030. The Ocean Decade is built around this framework of 10 decade challenges. Each of these challenges relates to one of the vectors, one of the avenues of action to get there. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but you get a glimpse of just how diverse and how inclusive they are in terms of inviting, eliciting action, not just from institutions, but from people. Going to the next slide. I wanted to make two essential points in this presentation, in this keynote speech, because I feel like there's often a gap that I meet in my daily life as a communicator in the ocean scientific community, which is what is it that communication can and cannot do, and the eternal debate between investing in communication and investing in the actual scientific programs. And the point that I wanted to make more broadly is that they're both really complementary. You can't have communication for its own sake. It's just communication is a tool. And essentially, when it comes down to how we're going to transform science, it's through concrete actions, concrete programs, concrete research, concrete innovation on the part of those who can master the technology and the knowledge to drive it forward. So, and please, if we go to the next slide, the Ocean Decade is definitely not just about comms, and it's recently come full circle and open for business with the first call for decade actions. The call for decade actions is essentially a global call for stakeholders, whether institutions or even groups of citizens who want to propose those programs, those projects, those, or essentially big packages of funding that can really help transform the way that we do ocean science today. And not just that, but to link it to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, and more largely to the Sustainable Development Agenda. So it's about closing the gap between ocean science and societies and the planetary needs. This action will be open until the 15th of January, and I really invite all of you to communicate about that, to pass it along to your respective institutions, and to really drive forward this opportunity to make an actual difference in bringing those actions forward. In the next couple of slides, I'll give you a few examples of what these actions really are. But I just wanted to close the loop of my argument in saying that whereas it is those actions that will actually transform the science and transform the policy making around it, it is communication that will reshape the relationships and that will redefine the narratives that we deal with on an everyday basis. It is through communication that we will bring the Ocean Decade not just onto the board of corporations, not just to the town hall meetings at local councils, but to the dining table of multiple homes. And unless we can do that, and this is what communications can help us with, then we are fate to having yet another United Nations decade. So it is communications that can help lead us from having a UN decade to having an actual movement made of people, made of real actions. So if we can move on to the next slide. With this, I wanted to give you and everyone watching a really, nobody has seen this yet, essentially. And I'm giving you a sneak peek of the large-scale global communications campaign that we are putting together as part of the Ocean Decade. It is a campaign that tries to close that gap between actions and comms through showcasing the examples of people who are actually out in the field doing what it's needed to either preserve or protect the ocean, to use ocean science to address the needs of communities, or are playing an ambassadorial role to drive up funding for ocean research, or to drive up the policies that we need to come full circle. The campaign is called Gen-O, and it's about taking us to the ocean we want through a set of individuals that we are calling Ocean Guardians. And if we can move to the next slide, the Ocean Guardians are, let's say, the ambassadors of this generation ocean. But they are not just special because they are well-known or eventually they are a famous movie star or a famous journalist. Ocean Guardians are you and I. They are the people conducting early warning training out on the beaches of the Caribbean. They are the students attending a lecture at the Sorbonne. They are fishermen and fishing villages in Sri Lanka. They are families, just walking along the beach in Ostend. They are sportists, divers, surfers. They are people who are taking ownership of the fact that unless we start acting at a very local level, or at least at the national level with really plans that are adapted to the realities of every country and every region, we are very likely not to get there. So Gen-O is a call to, don't like to say call to arms, but let's say call to flowers for the world to take ownership in its different ways and its different perspectives of the fact that we have an opportunity in the next 10 years to really change how we go about using, protecting, conserving the ocean. The next slide is a welcome to Geno. Now, the campaign is not going to be launched until World Oceans Day of 2021. We are in a lot of feverish haze of producing the different concepts and different materials. But it is a campaign that will be ideally really open to everyone to do what you want to do with it. This is going to be a campaign set about in different modules and packages that ideally will be easily replicable for different regions. But here's where your role as communicators, and I know there's a lot of people from around the world attending, even though it's organized by a European entity. I do realize that over the course of the years and its different editions, CommOCEAN has grown to be quite international. And I know, for example, there's quite a lot of people from Brazil, where I'm from, actually. There's some people from the Philippines and quite a few other countries. So this is my call to you. When we do launch the campaign, and even before, as we start launching the decade, and you will see a lot of activity in the next few weeks as we count down to the 1st of January, and then as we start to introduce on social media, but also digitally, and we'll be sending this around to the EMB and to other partners, start introducing and talking about the decade challenges, the ocean we want. There is room for everyone to come and be on board. Bring the campaign, bring the decade to your respective countries, to your respective communities, to your respective institutions. Reach out. What is happening at your locality or at your national level in terms of the Ocean Decade? There's some national committees already popping up, and for example, in Brazil, in the United States, in China, in Denmark. So more and more countries are coming together, and by countries I mean not just the government, but the governments are calling for civil society, they're calling for the scientific institutions, they're calling for philanthropies to gather around, think about what is it that the UN is putting forward as a vision, and decide how is it that that vision can be encapsulated, can help drive your respective and very particular needs, because this has to be a decade for all, or it will be a decade for none. If we can move on to the next slide, and it is my ending slide because I really want to hear from you. I just wanted to make another announcement, which is another way as well that you can contribute to the decade coming up in, I think in the next few weeks actually, and into the next year. It's a special edition with the Echo magazine. I know that Kira Colley, the editor, will be giving, if I'm not mistaken, a keynote tomorrow here at CommOCEAN. So I'll let her go through the details and as well share offline details of how you can propose stories and articles for this special Ocean Decade edition that we are putting together as a collaboration between the IOC of UNESCO and Echo magazine. So it's a brilliant opportunity to get the conversation going and really start shaping up those narratives about using the ocean as a key solution, not just part of the problem, but as a key solution to the planetary problems that we are being faced with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vinicius. That was really good. I think I probably speak for a lot of people when I say that we've been really looking forward to that first look at that communications campaign. I'm eager to get our hands on it, and I'm really encouraged to hear that that's exactly how it's been designed, so that we can all take it and all do our thing. I particularly enjoy the objective of bringing the Ocean Decade to the dining table. I think that's a really clear message for us and a really clear objective for us. We do have time for questions, and if you're happy, if anybody has any questions, please do add them to the chat, and I think that's probably the best way of doing this.
Very happy to answer any questions. And thank you again, Lucy, you and Angel and the whole EMB communications panel have been really there from the start of the Ocean Decade planning. We're really looking forward to working with you for the next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. 10 years of next steps. Very, very exciting to get to this point. Angel, I'm not seeing messages on the chat. I don't know whether you are.
Yeah, me neither, but also people can use the Q&A. And maybe just I will ask a question to Vini. Yeah, on top of my head. I guess, this is only the start, but it's also, will it be some sort of evaluation because of course you have 10 years, which is for some people will have some little time, but also to really big time to really assess if the communication is also working, if you are reaching your targets, if you are if you are really, as you say, promoting this transformation that the ocean science is or the Ocean Science Decade is willing to promote. So I'm just wondering if you're already thinking on how you're going to evaluate all these actions that you're already preparing.
No, absolutely, it's a great question. It's a question that has a twofold answer actually. So the first answer is that the decade as a whole will have a reporting and evaluation framework that is currently under construction. As part of that monitoring and evaluation framework, of course, there will be key performance indicators, not just for communications, but for all of the other objectives that the decade has set out in its implementation plan. But definitely communications will be an important module there. It will not be the easiest one. We know how hard it is to measure behavior change and how hard it is to actually see the final result of the communications campaigns and communications products, but definitely there will be an attempt, and we are making the investment about measuring that. The second part of the answer is that on the communication strategy of the decade, there will also be integrated some key performance indicators and some monitoring frameworks as well to help us keep in touch with reality, to help us measure, whether we are getting there over the course of the next few years. And I do hope to use the next editions of CommOCEAN to come and give a status update, an update on the evaluation that we'll be doing continuously on the decade comms to this community, which is very much important.
Thank you very much. You are, of course, welcome. We look forward to an update every 2 years from you for the next 10. We do now have some questions in the Q&A, so I'll just take them from the top for you. So the first one is, how can individual citizens participate in the Ocean Decade? Do you have any specific activities planned?
It's a great question, and a question that I've been consistently asking over the course of decade planning. It is not a question to which we have a firm answer today, and that is what actually spurred the development of the Gen-O campaign. Is that at some point we realized, okay, we've got these 10 decade challenges. We're doing really good. We know that the ocean is in among philanthropies and among companies and among governments, but where is the individual citizen in all this? What is the entry point? And we didn't have a clear answer, and that's how we decided we need to offer citizens a way in and a concrete set of actions that they can take. And this is the foundation of the Gen-O campaign. And what will come forward, in the next few months is exactly an answer to that question. So Gen-O will be the entry point for citizen action in the decade. It's not yet, we're still shaping up the portfolio of actions, but it's definitely under construction.
Okay, thank you. There's another question here. The question is, are there any specific targets associated with the UN Ocean Decade? I don't know whether that's communications targets or overall targets. So maybe just focus on communication targets if there are some.
Yeah, I mean, we did have some KPIs that we had set out in the first communication strategy of the Ocean Decade. But that communication strategy was essentially an internal document to really get the conversation started at the preparation level. What we're doing now is we are completely revamping that. And that's why you won't find the communication strategy of the decade very easily out there, is that we are in the process of reviewing and establishing very precise targets for where we want to get. More generally, the decade, if you talk about target audiences, we have various types of communication for various types of audiences. So while Gen O will be really targeting the individuals and individual level citizens, the more umbrella type communications actions of the Ocean Decade as a whole is much more about getting the involvement of institutional partners, whether it's from science, from government, from civil society.
Okay, thank you very much. Out of order, but this does relate to what you were just talking about. Somebody has asked, are the KPI indicators for the decade published?
Not yet, but they will be. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So obviously really excited about the Gen O campaign. You mentioned that it was going to be launched on World Oceans Day of next year.
Yeah.
Will we as communicators get a heads up on what's coming and be able to incorporate it into our own campaigns?
Absolutely.
Do you have a timeline for when we can get our hands on it?
We don't have a timeline yet, but I would definitely have a timeline by early 2021. Okay. We are still in the process of validating the overall framework of the campaign, and once we do that, then we'll get onto a second work package, which is essentially developing all of the assets and media partnerships, etc. And we'll hopefully be relying on this group here to develop those partnerships. And I joke to say that this can't be a UN decade; it has to be a US as in us decade, and it is essentially that. So we're trying to, for the sake of coherence and having a branding that works, we're developing that concept so that we are able to give it to you and say, here's what where you've got, tell us what you can do with it, and run with it. It's a process that the UN doesn't do super well of letting go, but it's a process that I think will be very crucial if we are to see the success that we hope for in the decade.
Yeah, thank you very much. Another question, will educational resource materials be made available for educators? Are there schools programs as part of the development of the package of information?
Whether it will come in the package of Gen O, or whether it will come separately under the package of ocean literacy activities for the decade, that is not yet clear, but it will definitely be a part of that. So we have this whole other related but slightly separate work stream on ocean literacy. So there is a ocean literacy strategy for the decade currently under works as well. So a lot of this will be coming into concrete shape and public form in the first trimester of 2021.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question, to what extent do you think the campaign or does the campaign support the Building Back Greener narrative? Green here metaphorically encompassing the ocean's blue. Yeah,
I mean, the timing is just, it doesn't allow you to escape that. It is, we already had an urgency and a planetary emergency to deal with In here, I'm not sure if the building back is about, sort of post-COVID. Is that the idea? Because that's where I've heard the expression, building back greener. So
yes, it does.
Okay.
Response.
the global pandemic definitely just puts up a notch the urgency of and also it's an opportunity, right, to do things differently.
Okay, thank you very much. So a practical question, can a Marine Research Institute with several projects and studies, as well as ocean communication to the public, apply to the call for decade actions N01 2020?
There will be a lot of different calls. I think there will be 2 to 3 call for actions every year of the decade. This first call, it's really focused on very broad, very big global scale programs that are, that essentially large scale, multi-stakeholders. So maybe not exactly on this call, though please do write to oceandecade@unesco.org with questions, send us information about your program, and then we'll be able to either tell you, apply now, or to ask you to apply to a sort of roster of programs that we are definitely interested on, but that will be invited to apply for a different call next year.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got 2 more questions on the Q&A, and then we will have to leave this session for now. I'm sure we could all question you for many years to come. So our last 2 questions. You noted that investing on science programs is key to advance the movement of UN Decade, and communication is just a tool. Can you elaborate on the action of investment you refer to and the relationship of these 2?
Yeah, I mean, the action that we're referring to is the actual, I'll give you some examples, and I didn't during my presentation, for which I apologize. These actions are, for example, a big revamp of or rather expansion of the current global ocean observing system to include some key components on coastal resilience and making sure that the technology and the training are there for communities. Other examples are I'm just thinking about the sort of proposals that we've been getting, and they are under development. One key program that will emerge probably out of this call for action is a global program around early career ocean professionals. And that will create sort of pockets of funding, but also training, capacity, mentoring, advice for early career professionals, not just in science, but in other ocean-related fields as well. But then when we come to where this sort of investment meets or touches on communication, you do have decade actions that go there. For example, the Ocean Agency, I'm not sure if you are all familiar, but it's an organization that's been really engaged on ocean, changing ocean narratives through a lot of imagery in particular. They are proposing an action to create a global ocean image bank. Which would be free for use, but which is sourced from the world's major award-winning image makers, photographers, movie directors from the underwater and coastal scene. So these are all kinds of actions that will require investment, but that will also further not just the knowledge, but the narrative reshaping as well.
Okay, thank you. Our final question relates to Think Global, Act Local. How do you intend to incorporate the regional seas? There are certainly global challenges affecting us all where a global message would make sense, but we're also facing some challenges specific to a particular region. Will the GENO campaign cater for local speciality? So that comes from somebody in the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, definitely. The GENO will be really about bringing it local. and making it not just about these sort of global framework, but about responding to your specific, the needs specific to your communities and to your specific networks. The decade also on a whole, if you look at the implementation plan of the decade and all the decade challenges and the different elements, it's the result of more than 12 regional consultations that took place, spanning, I think, almost 3 years, and with more than 1,000 professionals and experts involved. So this took place in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, in the polar regions, in the Baltic, in the Western and Southeastern Pacific. So you got a lot of regional input into the Ocean Decades targets and strategy overall. This is going to come more clearly into this regional synthesis report that my colleagues are working on and will be published in the next month or so. But also communications-wise, we are really, working to have one unified concept for the decade, but understanding that the messages and ultimately the actions will have to be very much local based.
Thank you very much. We will have to end this session there so that we don't overrun. We've got a very tight program as we always do in CommOCEAN. So Vinicius, thank you so much for your
thank you, Lucy,
presentation and for answering all of our questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So the last thing is just some notes on the conference program. So how we're going to manage this over the next 2 days. So I'll hand over to our hosts for this. We should all have been in Sopot right now, beautiful Sopot on probably with their lovely sandy beach, but we're here instead. But Timon Zielinski has been heading up the organising committee for CommOCEAN, regardless of it moving online. So I will just hand over to him just to say a few things about the way that we're running the conference this time.
Thank you, Lucy. Good morning, everyone. It's so exciting to have so many of us who registered and so many of us who are now with us. And we have very rich program, as Lucy already mentioned. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the people who contributed to that, and especially to the organizing committee, my colleagues from the committee, without whom we wouldn't be here today. I mean, it was quite a challenge to change the whole philosophy from the in-person meeting during these crazy pandemic times and organize this meeting online. So it's a very interesting experience, and I would say so far we are good, and I'm pretty sure with this team we are doomed to success anyway. So as I said, we have a very rich program. We're just about to finish this session, and then we will have a short break. And as you probably know, we have parallel sessions starting at 11:30, and most of these sessions are run separately by different teams or by links from us. So please follow the links that you've got, and please follow the rules that are together with the links that were sent to you. We also have an open session show and tell at 1 o'clock, between 1 and 2. Please remember that you can see all the entries at the Padlet link that you've already got, and please take a moment to look at these presentations, and you can also vote from 1 to 10, give points from 1 to 10. So this session will be open to all the participants. We also have a plenary session between 3:30 and 4 today, and the workshops, breakout workshops, between 2 and 3. So as I said, very rich program. We close probably around 4 o'clock today and start tomorrow 10 Central European time with more exciting talks and workshops and activities. So if you have any questions or problems, please contact me or Lucy Cox or Angel Muniz, or my colleague from the Institute, Paulina Pakrzyk, will try to help you out with any difficulties you may encounter while trying to log in, or if you have any questions in general. So I think, having said that, we are ready to close session 1, unless there are some other issues Lucy you would like to raise at the moment, or can we just go to the first?
No, I think we can go to the first breakout sessions. Angel has just put the links on the chat, so everybody will have their links to their individual meetings in their emails that they the joining instructions, but we are going to also put them on the chat as well, just in case you haven't got those, or you know, the links are there anyway on the chat. So this session will just stay open for just a couple more minutes, just while we let people use those links if they want to, but they are in your email joining instructions. So please do take a coffee break now, stretch your legs, and get ready for the parallel sessions, which start in half an hour's time.
Exactly. So thank you very much. We're closing this session and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.